The humid Chicago air hung thick and heavy, but it couldn't dampen the energy buzzing in my parents' backyard. String lights crisscrossed above, casting a warm, golden glow on the faces of my friends. The scent of grilled burgers mixed with the sweet perfume of my mom's hydrangeas. Tonight was the culmination of 4 years of relentless work, sleepless nights fueled by cheap coffee, and the constant, gnawing fear of failure. I'd done it. I had a degree in architecture, a diploma that felt heavier and more valuable than a bar of gold. My girlfriend, Sarah, squeezed my hand, her smile brighter than any of the lights. "I'm so proud of you, Alex," she murmured, her voice a soothing balm against the thumping bass of the music Liam, my best friend, was DJing from a makeshift booth. "Couldn't have done it without you," I said, meaning every word. She'd been my rock, my late-night proofreader, and my personal cheerleader. I scanned the crowd, a mosaic of my life. College friends, a few from high school, my beaming parents chatting with my aunt. Even Mark was here. I'd invited him out of some misplaced sense of burying the hatchet. We'd been rivals for the top spot in our program since freshman year, a competition that always felt more intense on his end. He caught my eye from across the lawn and gave a tight, unreadable smile, raising his red solo cup in a mock toast. I nodded back, deciding to take it as a peace offering. "Speech, speech," Liam chanted into the microphone, and the crowd picked it up. I laughed, shaking my head, but they insisted. I grabbed my worn denim jacket off the back of a chair and pulled it on against the slight evening chill before stepping onto the small patio that served as our stage. I don't have anything prepared," I started, the words feeling clumsy. "But thank you. Thank you all for being here. This diploma isn't just mine, it belongs to everyone who supported me." My speech was cut short by a sudden, jarring sight. 2 police officers were walking through the side gate, their flashlights cutting sharp beams through the dimness. The music died instantly. An officer, a man with a stern face and tired eyes, addressed the silent yard. "We got a noise complaint. Who's in charge here?" My dad stepped forward, but I did too. "It's my party officer, Alex Miller." "All right, Mr. Miller. We just need you to keep it down." His gaze swept over the party, lingering for a moment on my jacket. "What's this?" he asked, his voice hardening as he stepped toward me. Before I could react, he reached out and deftly pulled a small, clear plastic baggie from my front pocket. Inside were a dozen small, white pills. My blood ran cold. "What? That's not mine. I have no idea what that is." The world seemed to slow down. I saw Sarah's face drain of color, my mother's hand fly to her mouth. The officer ignored my pleas. "Put your hands behind your back." The cold, metallic click of handcuffs echoed in the dead silence of the yard. The celebration was over. My future, so bright just moments ago, had just been plunged into darkness. The ride to the station was a blur of flashing red and blue lights, painting the familiar streets of Austin in alien colors. The plastic seat of the patrol car was hard and unforgiving, the handcuffs biting into my wrists with every bump in the road. My mind was a chaotic storm, replaying the officer's words, the metallic click of the cuffs, the look of pure horror on my mom's face, Sarah's hand flying to her mouth. It didn't feel real. It felt like a scene from a movie, and I was just an unwilling actor. The precinct was sterile and smelled of stale coffee and disinfectant. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed with an indifferent buzz, casting a harsh, unflattering glow on everything. I was processed like a piece of inventory. Fingerprints, black ink staining my skin. A mugshot, the flash temporarily blinding me as I tried to hold a neutral expression, my face feeling like a mask of stone I couldn't control. They took my belt, my shoelaces, and my wallet. My graduation suit jacket, the one my dad had bought me, was sealed in an evidence bag, a symbol of my future now tainted as criminal evidence. "You get one phone call," a gruff officer with a tired face said, pushing a grimy phone receiver towards me through the bars of a holding area. My hands trembled as I dialed my parents' number. My dad answered on the second ring, his voice thick with a mixture of panic and confusion. "Alex, what the hell is going on? The police just left? "Dad," I choked out, the word catching in my throat. "Dad, they arrested me. They found something pills in my jacket. Dad, I swear they're not mine. I have no idea how they got there." A sob escaped my lips, a raw, desperate sound that shamed me. "Calm down, son," he said, but his own voice was shaking. We're trying to figure it out. Your mother is a wreck. Just hang in there. We'll get a lawyer. We'll fix this." The line went dead as the officer signaled my time was up. The promise of help felt a million miles away. They led me to a small, concrete cell. The heavy steel door clanged, shut behind me, the sound echoing the finality of my situation. I shared the space with a man sleeping off a drunk in the corner, his snores rattling in the small space. The bench was cold steel. I sat down, wrapping my arms around myself, the thin material of my shirt doing little to ward off the chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. My mind raced, escaping the confines of the cell and flying back to the party. My jacket. I'd taken it off when I started grilling burgers, tossing it over the back of a lawn chair near the patio. Anyone could have walked by. Anyone. Mark slapping me on the back. My cousin Leo, who'd been weirdly quiet all night. Even Sarah when she'd come to give me a kiss. Who? The question hammered at my skull. This wasn't a random, cruel mistake. The pills hadn't just materialized. Someone at my party, someone celebrating with me, had put them there. The chilling realization settled in my gut, colder and harder than the steel bench beneath me. I wasn't just a victim of circumstance. I was a target. The night bled into morning without ceremony, marked only by the harsh fluorescent lights of the Travis County Jail refusing to dim. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flashing police lights painting my parents' house in strokes of red and blue. A guard's sharp rap on the bars of my cell jolted me. "Let's go!" Arraignment. My wrists were cuffed in front of me, the cold steel a constant, biting reminder of my situation. I was herded with a few other men through a series of drab, beige hallways that smelled of bleach and despair. We were led into a small, crowded room adjacent to the courtroom. Through a thick, wired glass window, I could see the gallery, and I saw them. My mom was clutching a crumpled tissue, her face pale and etched with lines of worry I'd never seen before. My dad sat rigid beside her, his jaw set, his gaze fixed forward. He looked older, smaller. A wave of shame so profound it felt like nausea washed over me. This was my fault. Not the crime, but their pain. This was on me. A man in a suit that looked like it had been slept in approached me. "Alex Miller?" he asked, not waiting for an answer as he glanced at a file. "Arthur Davies, I'm your public defender." His voice was flat, tired. "Look, here's how this works. The judge will read the state's complaint. I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Then the prosecutor will talk about bail. I'll argue it down. Any questions?" I shook my head, my throat too tight to speak. He looked me in the eye for the first time. "One more thing, did you do it? Were those pills yours?" "No," I managed, my voice raspy. "I swear, someone at my party, they must have put them in my jacket." "Mr." Davies gave a short, non-committal sigh. "Okay, let's go." Being led into the courtroom felt like walking onto a stage for a play I didn't know the lines to. The air was thick and still. I was placed before the judge, a stern-faced woman who looked down at me over her glasses. I avoided looking toward my parents, but I could feel their eyes on my back. The prosecutor read the charges. The state of Texas versus Alex Miller. 1 count of possession of a controlled substance, penalty group 2, with intent to deliver. Intent to deliver. The words echoed in the silent room, sounding monstrous and alien. It wasn't just possession. They were painting me as a dealer. My heart hammered against my ribs. "How does the defendant plead?" the judge asked, her voice devoid of emotion. "Not guilty, Your Honor," Mr. Davies said clearly. The prosecutor recommended bail be set at $50,000. I felt the air leave my lungs. 50,000. It might as well have been $1 million. Mr. Davies argued back, citing my lack of a prior record, my new degree, my deep ties to the Austin community. "He's not a flight risk, Your Honor." He's a kid whose life took a wrong turn at a party. The judge was unmoved by the drama. After a moment of thought that felt like an eternity, she banged her gavel. Bail is set at $25,000. As a guard led me away, I finally risked a glance at my dad. His face was a mask of exhaustion and something else I couldn't decipher. Disappointment? Fear? All I knew was that the look in his eyes broke a small piece of me. I was no longer just Alex, his son. I was a $25,000 problem. The click of the release bolt on the holding cell door sounded unnaturally loud in the quiet hallway. A guard grunted, "You're free to go." Your parents posted bail. Freedom didn't feel like a triumphant release. It felt like a transaction, cold and impersonal. I walked through the sterile corridors of the Travis County Jail, my graduation suit now a wrinkled mess that smelled of fear and disinfectant. My parents were waiting in the lobby. My mom, Maria, rushed forward and wrapped me in a hug that felt both desperate and fragile, as if she was trying to convince herself I was really there. My dad, David, stood back, his face a grim mask of exhaustion and financial worry. The $2,500 he just paid to a bail bondsman, 10% of the total, was a significant blow, a chunk of their retirement savings gone in an instant. No one spoke. The unspoken questions hung in the air, heavier than the humid Austin morning that greeted us outside. The car ride home was a silent ordeal. We drove past familiar landmarks, the coffee shop where I'd pulled all-nighters, the park by Lady Bird Lake where we used to have picnics, but they all seemed foreign, part of a life that was no longer mine. I stared out the window, watching the city blur by, feeling the chasm between me and the two people in the front seats grow wider with every mile. Back at our modest house in the suburbs of South Austin, the tension finally broke. We stood awkwardly in the living room, the space that had hosted countless family celebrations now feeling like a stage for a tragedy. "Alex," my dad's voice was raspy, stripped of its usual warmth. "We need to talk. I need you to be completely honest with me." He wasn't angry, which was almost worse. He was hurt, scared. "I am, Dad, I've told you," I insisted, my voice cracking. "Those pills weren't mine. I have no idea how they got there." "But who?" he pressed, his hands clenching and unclenching. "A bag like that doesn't just appear. Who was near you? Who was near your jacket? Think, son. Your future is on the line." The interrogation felt like a betrayal. He was supposed to be on my side. "I don't know," I shot back, the frustration boiling over. It was my graduation party. Everyone was there, friends, family, Sarah's friends. People were coming and going all night. The phone on the kitchen counter rang, shattering the strained silence. My mom answered it, her voice trembling. "It's Sarah." She handed me the phone. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for more doubt, more accusations. "Alex." "Oh my God, are you okay? I've been calling all night. My parents just told me what happened. I'm so sorry." Her voice was a lifeline. There was no judgment, only pure, unadulterated concern. Tears I didn't know I was holding back started to well in my eyes. "I'm home," was all I could manage to say. "I'm coming over," she said, her tone resolute. "Don't go anywhere. We'll figure this out, I believe you." Hanging up, I felt the first glimmer of hope since the handcuffs had closed around my wrists. But looking at my father's conflicted face, I knew this was just the beginning. I had one person on my side, but I still had to convince the world and my own family that I wasn't the person the law said I was. The house was suffocatingly quiet. I spent most of the morning in my room, the architectural models on my shelves feeling like relics from a different life. From downstairs, I could hear the muted, anxious tones of my parents talking in the kitchen. Snippets about a payment plan and second mortgage were daggers of guilt that found their mark every time. Each hushed word was a reminder of the storm I had brought upon them. Then, the doorbell rang. The sound cut through the oppressive silence, and my heart leaped with a mixture of hope and anxiety. I heard my mother's tired footsteps and the creak of the front door. A moment later, a voice I'd been desperate to hear called my name. "Alex?" Sarah stood in the hallway, her overnight bag slung over her shoulder. The moment our eyes met, the knot in my chest loosened. She didn't look at me with pity or doubt. Her gaze was firm, a beacon of the unwavering belief I desperately needed. She dropped her bag and closed the distance between us, wrapping her arms around me in a hug so tight it felt like she was trying to piece me back together. I buried my face in her shoulder, inhaling the familiar scent of her shampoo, and for the first time since those handcuffs clicked shut, I felt like I could breathe. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," I whispered, my voice thick, "for all of this." She pulled back, her hands cupping my face. "Don't you dare apologize. We're going to fight this. You hear me?" We retreated to my room, closing the door on the rest of the house. It felt like our own small command center against the world. Sarah immediately went into practical mode, her energy a stark contrast to my own weary resignation. "Okay," she said, pulling my desk chair over. "We can't just wait for the lawyer. We need to figure this out ourselves." "Who did this?" She grabbed a legal pad and a pen from my desk. "Let's make a list. Everyone who was at the party." We started with the easy names: my parents, my aunt and uncle, Sarah's parents. Then our close friends, people I knew would never do this. The list grew, and with each name, we retraced the night. The hardest part was listing my classmates from the architecture program. "What about Mark Renner?" Sarah asked, tapping the pen on the paper. I thought about it. Mark and I had been neck and neck for the top spot in our class all year. I remembered the look on his face when I won the departmental award for my final project. A tight, forced smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was there, I confirmed. He congratulated me, but it felt thin, like he was reading from a script. "Where was your jacket, Alex?" she pressed gently. "On the chair by the entryway," I said, the memory clear. "I threw it there when I came back inside. Anyone could have walked past it. Anyone." My mom knocked softly before entering with 2 mugs of tea, her smile strained. "Thought you two could use this." She set them down and left without another word, her quiet retreat more telling than any outburst could be. Sarah and I looked at the list. It held 24 names. It was daunting, but for the first time, it felt like I wasn't just sinking. We had a starting point. We had a fight to wage. The name at the top of our most likely list was Mark, but a name wasn't proof. We needed more. "We can't just go around accusing people, Alex," Sarah said, her voice a soft anchor in the storm of my thoughts. We were in my car, parked near Zilker Park, the afternoon sun filtering through the live oaks. "We need to be smart. Who can we trust?" My mind immediately went to Maya. She was in our program, a friend to us both, and had a knack for observing details others missed. Her neutrality was her greatest asset. Sarah agreed, and a few minutes later, we were sitting across from Maya at a table outside a coffee shop on South Congress. The murmur of the city, a stark contrast to the tension of our mission. We started with small talk, carefully steering the conversation back to the party. "It just all went by in a blur," I said, trying to sound casual. "Did you notice anything weird?" Before the cops showed up, Maya stirred her iced latte, frowning in thought. "Weird? Not really, although," she paused. "I remember Mark being kind of a downer. He was hanging around the entryway where everyone dumped their jackets for a while. I thought he was waiting for someone, but he just seemed, I don't know, bitter. He made some snide comment about how some people have all the luck." The words hit me like a jolt of electricity. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was something. It placed him right where he needed to be. The sliver of hope this gave me was almost immediately crushed the next day in the sterile, airless office of my public defender, Mr. Henderson. He was a man who looked as worn down as the cracked vinyl on his guest chairs. His desk was a mountain range of manila folders. I explained everything: my shock, my innocence, the list, what Maya had said about Mark. I watched his face for any sign of belief, of shared urgency. I found none. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Look, kid," he said, his tone flat and tired. "Everyone who sits in that chair is innocent. Everyone was framed. Your friend saw your rival standing near some coats. A DA would laugh that out of the room." "But it's true," I insisted, my voice rising. "Someone put those pills in my pocket." "And we'll file for discovery," he droned, ignoring my plea. We'll see what the police report says, what their evidence is. We'll look for procedural errors. That's how this works. It's not a TV show. My advice, stop playing detective. It will only hurt your case. Let me do my job. I walked out of that downtown office feeling smaller than I ever had in my life. The city felt oppressive, the buildings like courtroom walls closing in. Sarah grabbed my hand, her grip firm. "He's just one person, Alex," she said fiercely. "We don't stop. We can't." But his cynicism had found its mark, a cold counterweight to the fragile hope Maya had given us. Mr. Henderson's cynical voice echoed in my head, "Let the system work." But the system was a glacier, and I was drowning in the ice-cold water at its edge. We couldn't wait. Sarah and I sat at a table at Mozart's Coffee Roasters, the afternoon sun glinting off Lake Austin. The peaceful scenery was a stark contrast to the knot of dread in my stomach. Sarah's phone was on the table, screen down, already recording audio. Mark arrived 10 minutes late, a deliberate power move. He slid into the chair opposite me, his expression a careful mask of nonchalant curiosity. "Alex." "Sarah, this is a surprise. What's up?" I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. "I don't have time for games, Mark. I'm facing a felony charge, 10 years. My career, my entire future, is about to be wiped out because of a bag of pills that showed up in my jacket at my party." He feigned shock, shaking his head. "Man, that's rough. I heard about that. Crazy." "We talked to Maya," Sarah said, her tone calm and factual. It cut through Mark's performance like a scalpel. "She remembers seeing you by the coats. You were there for a long time when everyone else was outside." Mark's jaw tightened. A flicker of panic crossed his eyes before he could hide it. "So, I was getting my jacket. It was cold." "It was 80 degrees that night, Mark," I said, the pieces locking into place with sickening clarity. "You were angry about the internship, about the final project showcase. You've been competing with me since our first year, but this wasn't competition. This was destruction." His composure finally shattered. He wasn't yelling, but his voice was venomous, dripping with a resentment that had clearly been festering for years. "Destruction? Don't talk to me about destruction. You have no idea what it's like. Everything comes so easy to you, Alex. The grades, the praise, the damn internship everyone wanted. You just breezed through. I wanted you to feel what it was like to have it all taken away. To have one thing, just one thing go wrong." He spat the words out, a raw, ugly confession hanging in the air between us. He didn't know he was admitting everything. He was just finally letting the poison out. Sarah subtly reached over and stopped the recording. Mr. Henderson listened to the audio in his cluttered office, his tired expression slowly transforming into one of focused intensity. He looked at me, a newfound respect in his eyes. "This changes everything," he said, already dialing the district attorney's office. "The charges will be dropped." 2 days later, the official letter arrived. Case dismissed. The weight that had been crushing my chest for weeks finally lifted. That evening, my dad found me on the back porch. He didn't say anything at first, just stood beside me, looking out at the yard. "I'm sorry, Alex," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I wasn't mad at you. I was terrified, and I let that fear make me doubt you. That's my failure, not yours." I just nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. We stood there in the fading light, the silence no longer heavy with tension, but filled with a quiet understanding. I looked over at the doorway, where Sarah was watching us with a soft smile. My future had almost been stolen, but in fighting for it, I had discovered what was truly unshakable: the love of the woman beside me and the hard-won peace with my family. My real foundation was finally secure.